Okay, so I don't have a notification right on my phone now.
Hello,
There it is.
hello. And hello to Facebook.
I'm one person watching. Um,
Well, I'll turn top chat to live chat.
it's live. It's live.
Hello, RTT.
I wonder why it's.
Booster has a question.
There it goes.
What's up, Booster?
There it
Andrew
goes.
Wright, hello. MW1 Online, hello. We planned on talking about UFOs because Kathy was doing some, watching some news events.
Yeah, I wouldn't say research. I was
No,
looking at Daily Mail.
looking at Daily Mail, which I know some people think is
It's a
a
guilty.
rag,
It's a guilty pleasure.
but it's I mean it's an avenue that definitely puts things that are considered controversial.
It's not as raggy as the National Enquirer.
Right, right. Although some people might disagree with that in England, but there's a Daily Mail in the UK, right?
Yeah, that's where it's from.
Yeah. So the headline was evident exclusive. Their presence alone is a serious national security issue. Dozens of sailors confirmed their warships were swarmed by at least 100 otherworldly UFOs, as their accounts contradict Navy chiefs' effort to dismiss them as drones. And then it goes on to say,
Did we give a link to the article so we don't have to like read the whole thing
yeah, I can do that.
in the description? See, there's some comments. So we didn't want to stream for very long because we planned on streaming earlier, but my daughter came over and so I had to catch up with her, and that took a little bit longer. We weren't expecting her, but it was nice to see her because, yeah. Excuse me. The Sawyer is working on putting the link to the article in case you guys, because it's a pretty lengthy article, and you guys have probably already heard of some of the information as well anyway, because it's this event happened in 2019.
Yeah, it's
Ooh, that's spicy. Shouldn't have made it that spicy.
stimulated some thoughts, of course,
Yeah.
to see this report. Of course, we don't know what it is exactly, and so we were thinking out loud what it could be, whether the next level was doing it, or the space aliens were doing it, or the humans were doing it, or whether the whole thing was basically, a stunt. Um, and I guess all those things are possible.
All rolled into one.
Yeah, but I think the least likely thing would be that it would be next level, but I don't know. It's possible, it could be next level. But the thing was that uh, Doug talked about, and Steve talked about that proof is not given uh, to humans when there's a potential for them to graduate. And by graduation, I'm not just talking about actually having an adult next level vehicle and tasks on a spacecraft, because graduation is also anybody taking their next best step in that direction. Um, and you can hear, I believe, Doe talking about it that way too, to some degree. In one of the last tapes we listened to, he talked about that individuals were graduating when they might hear this information for the first time. I think like after they left, for instance, like he talked about in the awaiting deep space services before departure, by doing the tasks that they gave us to do of disseminating their information and standing up for them, standing in their defense. That's a degree of graduation, and also to whatever degree somebody chooses to put into motion the formula of separating from the human kingdom. Um, that that starts or continues a metamorphosis.
Did you want to go to the chat?
Sure.
Just so we don't get too far behind on it.
Right. Musa says, who plants souls? Does the chief of chief do it manually, or is it an automatic process, or is it a crew member task? Um, well, the next level has a crew that do that. We don't know. The chief of chiefs doesn't, from my understanding from T&O, is that the chief of chiefs doesn't do everything in terms of planting and tending to the deposits of souls, and because that's what it's the joy of members of the next level to give tasks to the younger members of the next level, especially when it comes to interfacing directly with those in the human kingdom that are coming up. Because it's a natural progression for individuals that are coming up, that are young members of the next level, to have the prime interface with members of the human kingdom that have a soul implant that are growing, because they can relate to each other very much better than even. I mean, older members are putting it into effect. They're giving us whether it's dough or tea that actually plants the souls. I don't know. But it's actually an individual thing. It's not automatic, from what Tiendo taught. It's a choice that they examine the human vehicles that are growing, and the human vehicles have spirits. Even in the spirit of the genetic code is a degree of mind from the next level, though it can be very subdued to where somebody doesn't even know it exists. But so they examine individuals that are growing as they're asking for help in their lives, and when they're reaching up to the stars for help, uh, that's part of showing their thirst of extending beyond the human kingdom for help. And T said that when individuals are looking for the truth about something, then and then when they're praying, And she even said that, in the UFO Missionaries Extraordinary book that we just heard a tape from, where she said that that this might be something that actually gets them killed, for saying that when humans pray, it goes to where they are in the next level. It goes to the next level members where they are in headquarters, where T and Do's minds are in headquarters. And that word pray, of course, doesn't strictly mean through a religious definition of prayer. It's when we're asking for help in our lives and we're asking for strength to conquer our weaknesses or whatever it is that everybody's judged by the next level. Humans aren't capable of judging one another. And so the next level determines who to give deposits to, and they do that ahead of the older members coming and taking over vehicles that were then designed to wake up at a certain time, so that all the vehicles that received deposits of souls, then have returning souls having the choice to interface with when the older members start going public and people get to hear about them. And it triggers the programs and the understanding that returning souls have from their previous experiences. So the soul that's deposited for a first-time person is different than a type of soul that's deposited for somebody that was born, that was deposited for the first time in a previous civilization or a previous time during this civilization, like during the Jesus time or during the Moses time.
So the answer to that question then is basically crew members are depositing.
Yes, I believe that's true. And I'm sure you'd say more about the things that you heard about it in your study of the information. But if
No, I was just thinking.
no, I mean, if you do, I'm sure you would say something, right? I want you to. Okay, next is RTT. Did you hear back from Rio at all? Not so far.
Yeah, we're thinking that's probably going to be a minute before he has the courage to reach out. Because, as you know, for a long time he's been silent.
And he told me over 10 years ago that he was done when he had published his book.
And if we do hear from him, we're not going to say that we have.
Yeah.
That's part of.
If that's the way he feels.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he clearly doesn't. I think he's probably scared of Mark and Sarah, and I don't want to go down that path, but I think that he's scared of Mark and Sarah and what they'll do to him.
Especially because we know that Mark and Sarah have copies of scripts that were written, and that Rio's got the masters for that task, and that's why we put that plea out there, hoping that he would respond to it and share that information with us. If he's not going to do anything with it, even if he wants to do something with it, why not share it with individuals that are demonstrating wanting to be of service to T and Doe?
Well, and the fact is that Doe and T and the crew wanted those movies to be made.
Yeah,
They didn't want them to be sitting in storage for 25 plus years. They wanted those movies made.
right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken the time to write the scripts and focus their energy on it.
Yeah.
So let people who want to do something with it have it. And if you're scared Mark and Sarah are going to sue you, don't worry. They're already suing us. So they're probably not going to, we're still trying to figure out if they can add people to the lawsuit, which anybody, like, I can't stress this enough. Like, don't antagonize them. And don't, like, I don't know, like, it seems like just be careful because they will come after you. They're not playing around. And if you think that you're untouchable or whatever, I mean, I could be wrong, but you're not, and they will come after you. So anybody that wants to, post tapes and post audios or whatever, just expect that they are going to come after you. I cannot stress that enough. Like, this is not a game. They are dead ass serious.
Okay. NW109. What if a UFO stopped in front of Doe? Well, I mean, I don't really know. Well, Doe's not in his vehicle right now, so if that had happened, uh, you know, well, what they did say about that was that at one point in 1978, they had instructions to prepare the student body that I was a part of uh, for the potential that they would leave, and we would still be. Tiendo would leave, and not leave their vehicles necessarily, but get picked up is what the thought was by a spacecraft, and we would be left behind. And so they wanted to prepare us for that possibility, and for however long we were left behind for. But what they said about that was that if a spacecraft landed and you were right in front of you or something, that don't assume that it's from the next level. And I remember somebody asked them, "Well, how will we know?" And they said, "Well, you will recognize that it's us." And so if you don't recognize that it's them, then don't get on that spacecraft.
Right, just like we were wondering when we were talking about these UFOs swarming Navy warships, and thinking that it's, of course we could be wrong, um, that it's not the next level doing that. The next level's not out there buzzing Navy warships.
They're not trying to show off.
Yeah.
They don't need to have new believers. They want to give people their information that we can choose to believe in. Because just showing off like miracles and things like that. That's actually, it says in the Revelation chapter 13 that that's what the lower forces would be doing, and the governments would be doing that kind of thing, showing signs and wonders. Where the things that the next level does, well, according to Jesus, who Tiendo felt was his information in the four gospels was kept accurate enough. And Jesus said that you would see the signs in the sun and the moon and the stars of the return of the coming and the appearance of next level signs and wonders. And we've seen a lot of those signs over the years in the sun and the moon and the stars. And maybe I could review some of those in the future. But I mean, we don't know for a fact that the things that we were observing with NASA photography and comets and things, the unusual behavior that many of them had, we don't know for a fact that those were generated by the next level, but it seems to be this number of indications that they were. And Tiendo even started those indications by talking about Comet Kohoutek as being happening when they were awakening.
Well, what were you talking about? Those satellites that all got burned up in one solar flare? Just recently that happened?
Oh, yeah, there was something about that, but maybe you remember it better than I do. I think you found the story.
I don't know. But you had mentioned that you
Well,
thought that was the signs that they'll be burned up or something.
oh, well,
A bunch of Elon
well,
Musk
stars
satellites
falling from the sky
got taken out.
was another event that was in the Book of Revelations, and objects falling from the sky that was depicted as hailstones, but the hail meant actually they weighed 90 pounds each in the Revelation. Now I don't know if that's an accurate part of Revelation because everything in Revelation, according to Doe, wasn't accurate because John wasn't able to perceive it all. But they did say that all the events that were depicted there would come to pass. So, but
Oh yeah, they said that in UFO Missionaries.
yeah. Um, but I mean, Doe said, I think it was session 4 of the Beyond Human tapes, that there would be a big surprise would come. And after he left, he was talking about, uh, and the big surprise he said was we could see. He didn't say it was going to happen exactly like this, but he said what he felt uh, might happen, that we might become aware of thousands of spacecrafts coming in from different parts of the heavens, some coming from our Father's kingdom and some coming from the space alien. And maybe this hundreds of UFOs buzzing the warships, maybe that's space aliens, and it's interesting that what's the motivation for sharing that now, right? If that happened in 2019, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, it just so happens that they just had this conference where they've been, to make it into a serious study of whether there's a national security issue. And so in this article, it's actually using the words. It's saying that at least 100 otherworldly UFOs, as their accounts contradict Navy chiefs' effort to dismiss them as drones. So they're saying in this article that they're otherworldly. Now, do we have any evidence of that belief, or is that just somebody's? Well, there is plenty of evidence from those minds that there are space aliens exist and they have spacecrafts and they're not from this world. And even though they're restricted to this world,
and to the space around it.
Yes.
They're not just stuck on the planet.
Or inside the planet.
Or they can move within the solar system.
Yeah, we don't know how far that goes. We don't know how far, though I believe said the near space around the Earth, they're
Right, just
allowed
not
to,
deep space.
right, as opposed to deep space. Now, where the dividing line is on near space and deep space, I don't know.
I don't know why I think it was the solar system, if they're able to go within the solar system.
It may be, but
They can't get out of that though.
I kind of was, yeah, I was kind of thinking, I don't know. I mean, I can have my opinions about it. It's probably not that valuable because it doesn't really matter. We just know what they said,
It's
right?
just speculation.
Yeah,
Can we
we're
move
just
on in the
speculating.
chat before it gets too bogged down.
Sure. So MW1 Online says Kathy is considered an older member by intelligence.
That is not true at all.
It's nice of you to say that, okay? And Kathy is intelligent,
I'm just a student.
but we're all just students. I'm just a student. None of us are graduates into the next level. And so we're not younger members or older members. We don't know what our age is or experience is, but that's up to Doe.
If I was an older member, I wouldn't be engaging in physical relations with Sawyer. Straight up.
That's true. We wouldn't be. We're both students.
Bad ones at that.
Well, I'm not going to be we can't judge ourselves either. We can judge what we do and don't do that is taught by T and O are not the graduation requirements. Okay, so yes, we can judge those behaviors, but in terms of whether we're good or bad students, that's not up to us to decide. I mean, maybe that's an excuse, but we got to be careful about judging ourselves. I mean, we never should be happy. We should judge ourselves that we're never doing enough because there's always more to overcome. Even gain strength in overcoming the same thing that we thought we overcame before. But the next level doesn't necessarily, like Doe said in one of the audio tapes, that there could be a dispensation for some students that are serving the next level by disseminating their information.
Yeah, because I keep talking about how I don't want to come back to this planet.
So I'm not saying that.
I'd rather just go to the next level when we drop this vehicle.
But even some of the ones that graduated, Doe said would have to come back to the human kingdom to finish their overcoming. So, we don't know which ones those were. Has anyone? Okay, Booster says thanks, guys, for that. Casey says hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
And Rise Above has some hand signals, kind of like the Star Trek and other ones. Hello to you. Booster says, has anyone asked about abortion at Heaven's Gate yet? Well, I've talked about it before from a little that I know from Kian Doe's mind. And my understanding is that they're not for or against abortion, that what they are for is humans having the choices. So,
Doe did discuss in one of the Beyond Humans about people engaging in activity and then, that activity, even resulting in a life being taken. These are my words. That's not exactly what he said, but my interpretation of that was we're engaging in so much promiscuous sex without proper precautions or even just engaging in it, period, to create a life that you're not prepared to create and then just, oh, that was a mistake, I'm just gonna abort it. He also said in that same area that, maybe we'd get herpes so much that we'd stop, that whatever it took.
Right, and he talked about that too
Yeah.
early on in 1973.
So
that people might need to burn their sexuality out of themselves by, by being tired of getting gonorrhea and things like that.
yeah. I do know that Doe talked about being anti-human, that we're, trying to develop into next level beings and overcoming our humanness. So my interpretation of that was the less people on this planet, the better. But that's probably not a very popular theory.
I think it's from some of the things that Tiendo have said, they don't look at human vehicles as all that important. You know what I mean? But they said that the space aliens want to have lots of human vehicles because it's a strong genetic pool. And I suspect a lot of humans want a lot of humans for the same reason. And you can see that the idea of we know for a fact that laboratories are buying many of the fetuses that are aborted.
Fetal tissue.
Yeah, and they're using that fetal tissue even in vaccinations and things like that. And if you don't think that's true, go to Children's Health Defense.
Yeah, but that's a pro-life group, so it's all like this person that I follow on YouTube. I think she nailed it on the head that it's, well, she didn't say this, but it's programming. It's a distraction. It's take your mind off of what's we're supposed to be concentrating on, which is, she talks to spirit guides, whatever, which I don't really cotton to, but her theory was that there was like with the New Zealand spiral that just happened, like a portal, a stargate. I don't know if you guys have seen that image, but hundreds, if not thousands, of people in New Zealand witnessed what now the media and government is saying was a fuel dump of a space vehicle, um, one of Elon Musk's uh, rockets or something, that it was dumping fuel. But she believes that that was a portal that was just like the whole, going from what 3D consciousness to 4D, now to 5D. And instead of us focusing on elevating our vibration, we're instead
3G?
Well, no, she calls it D,
Oh,
like dimension, 3 dimension, 4 dimension, fifth dimension.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right.
but that regardless of all that, that instead of elevating our consciousness, instead of raising our vibration, that instead we're all focused on I'm pro-life or I'm pro-choice and I hate you and I hate you and negative, 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 negative. And I was falling into it too. I was like, how dare they? Like, my daughter is almost 18 and now she doesn't have a choice. So, like, what if she gets raped and pregnant and she can't abort that? That's fucked up.
Yeah. Just not
That's
having
just
a
not
choice
not having the
is the
choice,
problem.
but at the same time it's like, okay, well, that baby that's inside of you doesn't have a choice either. Like, well, what about that baby's choice?
Well, but that's like saying the egg should have a choice,
Or like
or the
you said,
sperm.
or like anytime a man ejaculates into a sock or whatever, that
They're wasting
you
that
just killed a billion,
fluid.
you just killed 100 babies, you know.
Well, not really, right? Because you can't have. But yeah, the idea of it
The
is,
potential for
I
life is
mean,
there.
this idea that conception starts the life.
Well, and
Well, sure,
there's
it
some
does.
groups that believe contraception itself is a form of abortion. That you should just let,
Well,
God
yeah,
decide. There's a bunch, like the Catholic Church was super strong with that.
right. That's right.
You should not be doing anything.
Right.
That you should just let God decide how many babies you should have. My sister opted for that theory, and after 4 children and the last one almost killed her, she decided maybe she needed to take that into her own hands and, use some means of contraception.
Yeah. Well, of course, the Catholics also wanted lots of people to become parishioners. So, they're encouraging, again, there you go with the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. They want a strong gene pool
Right.
and they want lots of believers in them. And, many of the Christians are completely void of, paying much attention at all to what Jesus taught. Instead, they're going to what Paul taught, and what the Old Testament says in their teachings, even though there's good lessons in some of that. But it's like dealing with grade school lessons as opposed to dealing with a graduation lesson. You know,
Ready to move on?
sure. Love the shirt, Kathy. Says right above.
I used to wear kid shirts all the time, but then I was wearing the shirt when, like, the second day. No, when we took Raymond back to Portland, I was wearing this shirt. We took several pictures and I was wearing this shirt and I was like, I'm not a kid. I shouldn't be wearing like kid clothes anymore. But I feel like I've been wearing the same couple of shirts on the last couple live streams and I wanted to, I guess, go back to my roots a little. I don't know. I would like this shirt too. Thank you. It says everything I know I learned on the streets. Yeah.
I think it's kind of fun.
And
Sometimes,
then Sawyer's wearing
yeah, I just,
the
I don't know.
biggest boom on earth, which I thought was fun. It's actually a shirt from Cincinnati. They do because I lived there for 2 years before I moved up here, and they do I think it's Memorial Day fireworks, and it's huge. It's bigger than July 4th down there, and that was a shirt that was produced in celebration of that. And I like that it said the biggest boom on earth. So
Which TNO is the biggest boom on earth.
yeah, we could modify it, and I doubt that radio station would sue us for that. Just like I
What?
was thinking before we posted the Daily Mail thing, I was like, should we post that? Or are we gonna get sued?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
It's a news article.
right.
No,
Right.
we
You
get
would think it's fair use.
right. There's a lot that's fair use, but right now we're under the gun, of course, Mark and Sarah's gun. To question everything that we do. Whether it's I don't know if we can do that,
Yeah.
and I don't know how long we're going to keep that up. I'm
Well,
about ready to
till all it's over. Yeah, it sucks that
tell them to take a hike
they have
and deal with
accomplished
it.
their goal of of stopping us from playing audios because we want to show the court that not necessarily that we're compliant, but that we're not indifferent,
Right.
and which we've been accused of, and that we're not just, well, we don't want more charges racked up against us, and we don't want to, I don't know. For me, like that was my thing when before I even met Sawyer. Like I was Mark and Sarah had approached me, and it was like, okay, well that's what I wanted. I wanted to get us all together, not us, but I wanted to get Sawyer and Mark and Sarah together, and because I could not understand why former class members were fighting. It still blows my mind. I still don't understand it. I mean, I have a little bit more insight into it now, but I just couldn't understand it. And I was like, well, if I can get them in the same room and they can talk to each other, that things would work out. It's ironic that we're all going to be in the same room, but it's just going to be a courtroom. And I don't mean to say we and include myself in as like I was there before or something, but it's ironic that I'm somewhat, getting what I felt impressed to do, which was bring them together and come to a resolution to where the information can be available for everybody. And that we're not like, not we're, but they're not like fighting and against each other. But it's the exact opposite. And they're fighting even worse now. Maybe I should have stayed out of it. But that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. And we're going to fight tooth and nail.
I was fighting with them before Kathy came along into my life. So, this is not anything new. And, Carloti, and I've got emails after email, and all kinds of communications. And Carloti has a bunch of communications as well with Mark and with Riccoti, and what Riccoti was going through, and Jen Rhodey, Riccoti's partner, was going through with Mark and Sarah, and all the negativity that they were dumping on her, and then when they sued the Right to Know and Chuck Humphrey,
And don't say her name.
and
Riccoti's vehicle's daughter.
and all the stuff they've gone through, and it's because it really boils down to one very simple idea, and that is that they think they have instructions to do all the dissemination of the material their way.
Don't tell.
Through their structure.
Don't give our defense away.
Yeah, we're not going to give our defense away because we got to
just try to pick holes in it.
Right, and they'll fight it, but we've got a very strong defense, very strong.
So hopefully everything will be available after this is all over.
But the facts are that the information is available if people want it.
Yes.
Just search for it. Search for it in every way you can think of. And you'll find what you need. Because the next level isn't going to let anybody totally stop it from being available. Yes, certain avenues are being paused, like for us, like through us, through in terms of playing the audio tapes, okay? But that's not stopping talking about TNO. They can't stop us from talking.
And the audio tapes are still available online. You just have to
search them down, yeah.
Or ask each other in the chat room because there's people that know where they're at. We just are not comfortable giving out a link anymore because we don't know how how much we can be prosecuted for that. It's like if you go into a movie theater and record a movie that hasn't been released on DVD yet, and then you share that with your friends, how much trouble are you going to get in?
Well, you could be criminally prosecuted according to the screen on the beginning of a lot of videos, right?
Right. I remember being scared of that when I was a kid because my parents would record those.
Oh yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh no, the government's going to come in and take my
Arrest us.
parents away. And it's like, for a couple bucks?
Well, you know what?
These movie studios are going to like come into people's houses and see that you have a bunch of VHS tapes.
Well, you know what? It's kind of like it's not beyond
Crazy.
imagination, really. Like because the Inquisition and stuff like that happened. It wasn't logical for people to be burned at the stake because they were holding private Bible lessons. Outside the clergy, like sometimes women, would be talking about the Bible with other people, and when they got found out,
women too. Bloody Mary killed a lot of people, a lot of Protestants, I believe, or maybe it was the Reformists. I can't remember who she hated.
Right. Yeah, men and women, both.
Yeah,
but
it was a lot.
But if you weren't part of the clergy, then you could be killed, banished from the society, or put in jail, and tortured, and all kinds of things. And that mindset is still around, and you can see it with
that influence.
Yeah, that influence, those influences, those the Scarnets, those Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls that will stop at nothing to keep people from having access to the truth, to what's real, most real about our reality and where we came from, and what's the purpose of it.
Yeah. That's why usually when people hear the information, they just go, oh, that's crazy. That's nuts. But then there's some that think, huh, that's interesting. I wonder if that could be true. Let me research it a little bit more.
Booster says, good to see the Heaven's Gate site back up. Yes, it is. The fallen angels are the ones doing probes. Don't get on those spaceships. That's true. Next level doesn't do that kind of thing.
Exactly.
MW1 Online says, vanished after the interview, seemed to have profit signs.
T&O, but Hayden Hughes.
Yeah, right. Right, they seemed to, well, T&O said something about that, actually. They said they didn't do anything to vanish. They just walked away. But I wondered about that. I wondered if actually the next level put up a block or something so that, huh?
A veil.
Yeah, I wondered so that Hayden Hughes would be, like, wow, I wonder what that was. MW1, supernatural instinct, no offense. I don't take any
None
offense by that.
taken.
No. Rise Above says Revelation 8:8, the new international version. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. Yeah, I think that's talking about. I could be wrong. Okay, I don't know because Tiendo didn't go through they didn't teach out of the book of Revelation, except a tiny bit, which you'll see in the Beyond Human tapes. Okay, and that didn't even start until the 90s, where they started talking about some of those things like Armageddon and things like that. But the second trumpet, I believe, took place in the early 1900s. I think it's talking about the wars,
Well, I mean that, yeah,
the world wars,
could be.
like throwing a sea of blood. A third of the sea turned to blood. The third part is also, I've gone into this quite a bit, and I don't want to take too much time on it right now
Yeah,
because
I'd
I could be
rather not.
wrong
Yeah, I'd rather not.
about a lot of my interpretation of a lot of those words. But they're not just referring necessarily to. I mean, there is a coordination between them. It seems like, and the seven angels that are pouring out their vials. That happens in Revelation 16. There's a correlation between the events depicted in Revelation 7 and 8 and 9 that, and 10 and 11 that depict the seven trumpets. And even in those Revelation 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, there's multiple events, seems like, are being talked about that can be happening at different periods of time. And so there might be some truth to what you're saying, that an object may end up going into the sea because the indication is that that happens with the seven vials being poured out, which are considered to be the seven plagues. And
But you can buy Sawyer's book and read all about that.
Yeah, you can,
It's accessible online as well. On your
yes,
blog?
it's on my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com, and it's free. And the title is Tiendo, the Father and Jesus, Heaven's Gate, UFO, Two Witnesses. So I know it's a long title, but if you put that title in the search bar, you'll come up with an index file that shows you all the parts of the book, because there's like over a dozen parts to it because it's so big. And you can search for keywords also on the blog, and you'll bring up a whole bunch of articles or parts of the book that'll talk about different perspectives of that material. So MW1 Online says it was said Mars could have life billions of years ago. Doe said that he wasn't sure whether they got to Mars or not in a previous civilization on Earth. And he didn't know whether they had the technology in a previous civilization to get there. And he wondered about what they did with the space junk if they did have that kind of technology. Booster says, are there a finite number of souls to be planted? I don't know. Soul Caliber says, I have returned. Yes, right. We haven't seen you for a while.
Oh yeah.
Good to see you again.
It is.
Kate Spiz, my body, my choice. I agree with that. Choice. That's right. The Catholic Church can suck it, he says. Yeah, they're down in the gutter in so many ways. Soul Caliber says agreed. I don't know. Yeah, I guess to what Kate Spiz is saying. Soul Caliber says, I'm one of the good ones. Maybe a good Catholic. Well, yeah, it doesn't mean that everybody's bad.
He just said he agreed, so. Or maybe.
Well, he just said, I'm one of the good ones.
Well.
Yeah, I was raised as a Catholic, but I'm not a Catholic now. And I rejected what they were teaching right in the beginning, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with somebody that considers themselves a Catholic. I mean, it's just that, their doctrine is distorted and diluted from what Jesus taught. And it's meant that we all outgrow all the religions, and even the New Age spirituality is distorted in dilutions of a lot of what the religions were, and the paganism, and and all the beliefs and non-beliefs as well are all distortions. The only place to find the truth is to attend those teachings. I mean, you'll see snippets of the truth throughout the religions, sure, but they're mixed up. They're all mixed up, and sometimes they've been modified and reinterpreted and symbolized and made into figures, not figuration, but I don't know if that's a word, but figures of speech as opposed to being accurate and depicting some degree of reality about what actually happened in history. But anyone, Soul Calibur, does anyone play Dungeons and Dragons? It's so good. I never played it.
I did with my stepfather and his military buddies, Marine Corps. It was fun if I remember correctly.
Kate Spiz says, the church I used to attend before I became an apostate, yes, said D&D was demonic.
That's what my church said too.
What's D&D?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, they've got a weird view of what's demonic, right? Like, games. I don't know. What about the war games that are played?
Well, yeah, that would be considered that too. Secular music is demonic. Everything that's not
rock music was demonic, right?
Well, if it had a message that wasn't Christian.
Well, even
at least the non-denominational church that I went to. Like Led Zeppelin, they talked about that all the time.
Oh, really?
Well, not all the time, but I mean, I'm just like the Stairway to Heaven was like, this bad, evil song. You can't buy your Stairway to Heaven, right?
Well, that's true. But maybe that was a sarcastic buying of the Stairway to Heaven. What do you think?
I would have to read the lyrics to that song to know. But there were other things in it that, like, because I remember watching like this video that was put out by like I don't even know what Christian group that kind of took apart that song and talked about Alice Cooper and some of the songs, AC/DC, Highway to Hell.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there was something about playing. Oh God, what was it? Oh, maybe that's what it was at the Stairway to Heaven, that you could play some of it backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And it said like Satan. Oh God, what did it say?
Well, I know stuff like that with the Beatles, some of the Beatles recordings.
Yeah, you could play it backwards, like on a album, like an actual album, and just do it backwards with your finger, and it would say like, God, what did it say? Like, Satan, I give you my soul, or Satan, please help, or follow Satan, or I can't remember what it was, but we were all sitting there as teenagers and young adults, like, ooh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of indoctrination. All of it's programming.
Um, uh,
Cool.
but in terms of that stairway to heaven idea, buying your stairway to heaven, look at the teachings of evangelists like Kenneth Copeland, which Doe talked about, and how they're saying that um, that God wants you to have riches, and that if you don't have riches, that means that you're not giving
Well, and
to the church.
modern day equivalent of that would be Joel Osteen. More people are probably familiar with him because I remember listening to a sermon by him, and I do that because I don't think he really preaches. He just kind of is a Pollyanna feel good kind of. Let me pull a couple verses out. Not even a couple verses. Let me pull a couple sentences out, and we're gonna, just talk about positive. Like God wants you to have riches. He doesn't want you to be down in the dumps. And the way you get that is by tithing 10%. We're gonna pass the offering plate.
Right. That's what Kenneth Copeland was talking
Yeah.
has talked a lot about.
Most of them back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, and
Benny
others as well, Jimmy Swagger.
Jan
and Paul Crouch.
With the hair. Oh my God, what was going on with her hair? And I don't care what anybody says about Tammy Faye Baker. Leave her alone. Like, well, she's dead now, but
Is she?
yeah, they made this whole like complex too. Like, it was going to be an amusement park, I think, and it's abandoned now. I totally want to go find it.
The Bakers?
Yes, and they had like condos built that were like built really poorly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they cannot be moved into. Like, you can't take these buildings and make them whatever. Because I'm always like, why can't homeless people move into all this abandoned stuff? Because it's not practical.
Yeah, we followed a bunch of televangelists
like Holy
in the
Land
90s. Just see what they were saying.
We're going to go there. We're going to climb the fence and photograph it.
Yeah?
Okay? Yeah.
All right.
Because I wanted to. There's like in Tammy Faye Baker's eyes or something. It's a documentary, and that's where I like kind of fell in love with her. I was like, oh my God, bless her heart. Who cares that she wore that crazy ass makeup? Who cares that she stole a bunch of money?
Yeah.
Bless her heart.
Really? Okay.
You should watch this documentary.
All right.
She seemed like she genuinely cared about people and then just kind of got caught up.
Well,
and having lots of money and her husband being this, figure. And I think that she just got caught up.
Casey says, Sawyer, how do you feel about Orthodox? Well, I think they're, pretty much,
extreme.
Off the track. I mean, it's just
like
another
Orthodox
religious.
Jews, Orthodox Russians,
yeah,
Orthodox Greek.
Sticking to the fundamentals is like that, right? A fundamentalist. I'm not really good at, like pigeonholing the different degrees of belief systems and the way that things have gotten so distorted. But yeah, I mean, the Orthodox Christians, from, that are all this pomp and ceremony baloney and statues and it's all like, it's all bizarre. It's all, it's not real. It's an illusion of holiness, and it's an extreme, and it's a way of remaining in a thinking that you're serving the kingdom of God, but you're missing the whole point if you're not looking at the new information that's been coming down from Tino's mind. Yeah, because they've got the accurate stuff. Rise Above says, hi, I play every Thursday night. MW1 Online says, anyone can get in trouble for information supposed to be for public, but it's about money. Don't get their way. Right, we're not making any money.
No, I think he's talking about Mark and Sarah.
Yeah, don't get in their way, right?
They're not making any money either.
Right, they're not actually making money either that we're aware of. Rise Above says, Sawyer, how did people in the class deal with loneliness? I can understand celibacy, but the lacking of a human connection is almost unhealthy, isn't it? Well, we weren't lonely because we were always with somebody, unless we were sleeping. And even sleeping, we were with our partner in the same room or the same tent. So we didn't really have any loneliness problems. But, that was one of the things that those said Adam's first mistake was that he wasn't happy being alone, working for his older member, doing tasks in what was called the garden, whatever that task was in that area at that time. And like you could be in the next level and you could be sent on a task alone. And who knows how long that task would last. And if you were someone that hadn't overcome needing somebody else besides your older member and their instructions, then that would be a problem.
I'm fading fast.
Yeah, I understand. Me too. Checker222 says anything
Hey, Checker.
phonetic can eventually have a backward sound that seems to sound like real, though distorted words. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when Kathy was talking about that.
That's what I always thought.
That if you play enough things backwards, eventually you're going to find things that sound like something.
Exactly. That's why it was just so fascinating, and to get caught up in it too. Like as a teenager, it was just like, wow. I don't know. Just
Yeah, like you can do that with the synthesizer.
Well, and I know that
you can make it sound like someone talking.
Right. I know that there were bands that specifically recorded stuff that could be played backwards, though.
Oh, I see.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that, but there were it sounded like gobbledygook forwards, and then you played it, you did the little thing, and it was like, oh, they're saying, Satan, take my soul. What the hell?
So Checker222 says Stairway to Heaven supposedly had a lot of them.
Right. And there's also Pink Floyd, where you can, what is it, Alice in Wonderland, I think? Is that the movie that you can play the album Dark Side of the Moon, and you start I think it's Alice in Wonderland, where you start the movie in 18-minute mark or something, and then start the album and it syncs up, all of it syncs up. Supposedly, I don't know if it's that movie or if it's something else, but oh no, it's the Wizard of Oz. It's the Wizard of Oz that is.
All right. MW1 Online says, so the Jim Jones People's Temple and Heaven's Gate never came across each other? I'm not aware that I certainly in the 70s never came across any of the people while we were traveling around that were associated with Jim Jones, but I didn't spend a lot of time in California. I think that's where they were. Well,
they started out in Indiana.
Oh, really?
Indianapolis.
Oh, is that right?
I could be wrong about that,
but I never came across them myself.
And I think they went to Ganya pretty.
Yeah, they were in Guyana in 1978.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure. I was just gonna look
even before that. And so we only went on the road in 1975. So, but but no, I never came across anybody, and we never talked about and nobody talked about having come across anybody that I ever knew. But, we didn't talk socially together.
Yeah, he opened the church in Indianapolis. And they moved to Ukiah, which
In California,
which is in California.
Ukiah.
And then they went to San Francisco in 1970. And then in 74 is when he leased 3,800 acres in Guyana.
Oh, so that would be before Tiendo went public.
August 1st.
Although he left some people behind.
Well, that's just when he leased the land and they began to build Jonestown. So he didn't have all of his followers out there until 77. August 1st, 1977. And then in 78, there was 1,100 people there in the beginning of 1978, because by the end of 1978, November 18th, 1978 is when they murdered all their followers. And then Jim Jones was shot. I think that's about it. I didn't realize I thought they were at Jonestown a little bit longer than that.
Rise Above says the new Tammy Faye movie based on the doc won an Oscar for Best Actress, I believe. And Rise Above says The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Yeah, it was a really good documentary. I mean, it made me see her in a different light.
I didn't see it.
They were, I mean, granted, the producers and film of whatever was favorable towards her, so I suppose they could have spun it a different way where it wouldn't have been so positive towards her. But I don't know.
Checker says backward stuff does sound creepy. And Checker says yes, Wizard of Oz. And Rise Above says Wizard of Oz. I guess maybe you saw that. That's why you said it.
No, I can't see that far. I don't have my glasses on.
RTT says, I believe Jonestown was a CIA mind control experiment.
I do not. Not that that has any value, but I think that those people honestly wanted utopia. And Jim Jones wanted that as well, but he was a drug addict. And he listened to the lower forces. And they consumed him. And they consumed his top followers. And then they took everybody out.
Which is, I think, the Luciferian way of trying to put a bad light on people that were breaking away from the world to some degree.
Exactly. People talk crap about Jim Jones and saying that he was, I mean, not, there's a lot, I do too. I think he's a murderer. But in the beginning, people talk crap about him before he turned into what he turned into, and said that he was preying on minority groups and disadvantaged people because his congregation was predominantly African American. And just my personal opinion, not that it has any value or whatever, but I don't think that's true. I think those were the people that were drawn to what he was preaching. And he was somewhat preaching equality between the races and just people in general. And he saw how corrupt the system was. And he desired to take them out of that. But I can't remember what the saying is, ultimate power yields something, but
Yeah, it got way out
He had
of
too
whack
much
because,
power and too many drugs,
yeah,
amphetamines, and he became paranoid and delusional. And perhaps there was some madness. Well, clearly there was some madness going on there, but
yeah, people say that Heaven's Gate was also a MK Ultra mind control CIA project, and that couldn't be further from the
it's
truth. So,
offensive.
yeah. MW1 Online says People's Temple set the tone for doomsday media affects Heaven's Gate. Checker says Kathy figured it out, Wizard of Oz, with no help. She's just cool and remembered.
It took me a minute though.
Smiley face. Checker says Jim Jones preached a beautiful message, certainly, and hid a lot of stuff very well.
Yeah,
Rise Above says ultimate power corrupts ultimately.
that's what it is.
Yeah. Checker says the abbreviated quote, power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. And MW says Jim Jones was the first one in the beginning to adopt a black child.
That could be true. Yeah, it makes me sad what happened there.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad.
But the next level could take any of those souls and spirits uh, that died and save them for a future opportunity, depending on their growth. And that doesn't justify what happened, but that's the truth. So nothing. The next level doesn't. Nothing's lost when an individual is uh, trying to do their best to be close to the next level in whatever way they see that happening.
Separate from the
Yeah.
norms,
And there were a lot of groups
society.
that people were doing that.
Yeah. The hippie movement, all kinds of cults, quote unquote, sprang up, communes that are still in existence today that people just don't hear about because they've separated themselves.
Rise Above says Jim Jones was molesting his kids and others. Horrible. Yeah, see, that's how they all get off track because they're humans that, you know, have a certain amount of influence from the lower forces that lead people to, do terrible things to other people, abuse people, especially
And see, I
children.
know that he was engaging in sex with his female followers, but I had not. I think this has come up before. I hadn't heard that he was molesting his children or any minors.
I don't follow it. I don't much. I've read a few things, but I wouldn't know for sure.
I read a lot about it because I was interested in it and I just thought that it was really sad. But I know that he had a main wife and that he, like I said, he engaged in physical relations with other of his followers, his grown followers, as far as I understood it. I know there was accusations against David Koresh. Um, I guess that survivors of those incidents I would have to hear from them. I feel like a lot of it, not that I'm sticking up for Jim Jones and David Koresh or whatever, but I feel like a lot of it is propaganda and to vilify them even more than their actions. Like it's already horrible enough what they did that you don't have to like make up stuff like it was a CIA MK Ultra mind experiment. Like the truth is already horrible enough.
Yeah, not that the CIA and doesn't have programs of mind control. They do.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember the names of them, but there were like complete towns that were uh, bombarded with substances. I can't remember exactly what they were, but and electromagnetic fields and things like that.
It's like there's reports of, I think it's the Havana syndrome, where service members that were in Cuba were being tortured with high frequency sounds, having headaches,
Oh yeah.
like, and they're just now getting some relief from that, as far as like it's just now being officially recognized, like that something was going on. Like it was anybody that was like near the US embassy or lived in that area or something.
Mhm.
So it's like there was some kind of device that was being used to
Well,
attack these people.
look at what they did with all those nuclear blasts and the testings in Nevada and other places,
Taking a toll.
and all the soldiers that were subject to it at close range, and how a lot of them came
Guinea
down with
pigs.
all kinds of cancers and stuff.
Well, yeah, they have like ships with all these guys just sitting, and they told them just cover your eyes.
Talk about mind control.
Yeah, and they're just sitting there on the deck of a ship with like half of them aren't wearing any shirts, and they're all lean and tan, and there's like a, you know, the cloud, the nuclear
Yeah,
cloud on the horizon. It's just like, holy shit.
yeah, all the
Oh
particles.
my god.
And some of them, I think, were even irradiated. People could actually see through them, like it was like X-rays.
Yeah,
That's supposed to be reports
I
like
don't
that.
doubt it. Yeah, I mean, just with the Philadelphia experiment stuff that I'm reading, I don't doubt it at all.
And then, look at the mind control experiments that have happened in since 2000 in the United States. I'm not going to name them because I'll get banned. Talk about mind control and censoring. It's happening big time as we speak, and it's been happening for years.
Well, I just saw this article on Daily Mail, again, Daily Mail, about Instagram and what else does Facebook own? Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook hasn't followed yet, about people posting about the Plan B pill, that they're removing all of that. They're removing all of those posts, but they're falling in line with the Supreme Court decision of, no abortions in any form.
Really?
So the Plan B has to be taken within 72 hours, and it's supposed to have you miscarry, abort. It forces your period to start, is what it does. So
they're trying to ban that.
yes, supposedly, I didn't read the article, so I don't know.
It's so
but
upside down.
it was already a controversial thing. Plan B is actually called RU 486.
Oh yeah, right. I
Which,
remember that in Europe they were using that a lot.
yeah, and it's changed to Plan B, but it was, I don't know if that's still the call numbers of it or whatever, the patent or whatever it was, but I remember I can't remember um when I worked in the restaurant industry, which wasn't very long because I was a horrible waitress, but you had 86 items off the menu, like that's 86th. Like you cross stuff off and that's no longer on the menu. So when that Plan B came out and it was called RU 486, it was like,
RU 486ing the pregnancy, right?
yeah, like, oh,
Yeah, right.
could they be any more subtle?
Right, but what is this going to end up doing if they ban all the different forms of contraception? Then people are going to use coat hangers and stuff, right? Because that's what
Well,
my aunt did when she was in Europe.
there are
to
other
3 pregnancies.
there are other things like herbs and stuff. Like women
Yeah.
have been trying to control that since we've been women.
Yeah, right, right.
So it's
Like the
just
black cohash, is that?
no, I know that's for menopause. It can help
Oh,
even out, but
oh, I see.
hemlock,
Hemlock?
which I believe is illegal because it's a poison.
Yeah,
Belladonna.
belladonna, yeah.
Like basically you poison yourself because you're trying to poison the fetus.
So why can't we just be civilized and let people have their choices? But you got all these people that they think that they're God and God's telling them that they've got to go, stop people from having the choices of what to do with their bodies. It's going backwards. Tindo said that after they left, the lower forces would take over. And it's not just happening with the right, I mean, the Catholics, it's happening on the left as well. There's no good guys and bad guys in this.
Yeah, they're the same.
Yeah, they just have different formulas or different things that they are forcing their hand on. Well, we didn't talk much about UFOs.
I know.
But guys, because we go by the questions, so maybe we'll talk more about it in the future. I mean, there's a lot to talk about regarding the things that are happening with the Space Force and have been escalating to that. Um, with Senator Richard Blumenthal, that during the Trump administration, Trump thought that one of his greatest accomplishments was the Space Force. And they were literally talking about people from outer space attacking. Gorbachev talked about it. Then Reagan talked about it with him. And I have those recordings. I had to get rid of that video that I made that had them talking. I had the clips because I had a picture of an older member on it. And that's been one of the things that, Mark and Sarah came after me for using that image of the older member on my screen, even though I wasn't making any money from it.
A question that we keep coming up with as we're discussing this lawsuit is the class copyrighted the Beyond Human series. They copyrighted it in 1992 under Total Overcomers Anonymous Monastery. And then on the cassette itself, it says copyright circa 1992. So we're trying to figure out how could Mark and Sarah over copyright that? How does that happen?
How did he get into the Tila Foundation?
Yeah, how did they take that copyright away from Total Overcomers Anonymous Monastery and make it the Tila Foundation? That's what we're trying. We don't understand these things. And we're not.
Yeah, if anybody knows how that happened.
If anybody knows how that works.
Or can research even copyright.
Yeah, because we're in over our heads clearly, and we don't have an attorney. And we don't have unlimited hours to research this stuff.
But we're working on it.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to work on it. But if anybody can help with things like that, also if you can find the documentation, that's what I think Kathy is talking about. If you can find documentation and as to a copyright under Heaven's Gate TOA, Total Overcomers Anonymous Monastery,
Right.
or under Heaven's Representatives,
or Right to Know.
Right to Know. We haven't done exhaustive searches even the Tila Foundation, if you can find out exactly what tapes were in the library.
Right. Like people have speculations, but that's just speculations just
That's
because
copyrighted under the Tila Foundation.
right. They have copyrighted with the Copyright Office, the Register of Copyrights, whatever. 486 audios. So we're wondering, like, why wouldn't they copyright all of them? How can they copyright things that they're not the creators of?
Yeah.
It's exhausting. And we don't have money for an attorney. Hopefully the court will see it to appoint us one that won't be a negative. That won't fight against us. But with that, I'm out because I'm falling asleep.
I'll just finish up in the chat room, then I'll be right with you.
Thank you guys. Sorry if I
we're up beyond our bedtime.
Talk too much or whatever, and I'm surrounded by squishmallows. I've resorted back to my childhood. Well, no, these things weren't around then, but I had them all in bags because everything's in storage now. And I was like, you know what? I'm not keeping those in bags anymore. Anyway, good night.
Okay. All right, the squishmallows are here.
That's right.
Okay, Rise Above says his son came out. Okay, Jim Jones' son, I guess, and talked about things. So Checker says, I've never read Jim Jones molested his kids, splitting hairs. He was terrible. I just don't think he did that specific terrible thing. Rise Above says in 2010, Jim Jones' son was on Oprah. I don't know if he wrote a book as well. And he has. MW1 Online says, why can't we live together? Set the tone for 70s. A good song. Rise Above says, the embassy.
The center.
He says the embassy. I don't know what that's referring to.
No, I know, but that's what MW1 was saying. Why can't we all live together?
Oh.
Like current believers.
Right, well, we are. But we weren't meant to have kumbaya in the human kingdom. The only kumbaya really exists in the next level. This was meant to be a training ground. That's why there's so much, where the Luciferian space alien souls with their hybridized human vehicles are, they actually are manipulating the way people think for centuries. They've been doing that. And the next level allows it to happen because then they provide the reality of their existence in stages to people so that people can choose to receive it or not. And the ones that choose to receive it end up growing to where they eventually can graduate out of the human kingdom if they stick with it and keep on growing in that direction. And then the lower forces eventually get recycled. And according to Doe, before there is a next garden experiment like we have now, there might be, said might, they might make the earth into a base for the next level. And on a base in the next level, there can be individuals that are human equivalents living, and they can be living in peace. They wouldn't have the lower forces to drive them to fighting with each other and having wars. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have like Shangri-La. They'll still have lessons to learn because the human kingdom is a lesson ground. even without the Luciferians, people need to outgrow their mammalian behaviors and ways in order to graduate into next level membership.
That's where she's been hanging out. Do you see her?
Yeah. She likes the drums or the carpet or something. Buttons and Rubbish is here. It says, hey guys, I came into the stream late, but I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you, Buttons and Rubbish. Rise Above says, U86 someone who's had too much to drink. Right. In other words, a bartender would do that. Say, you can't have any more. Checker222 says, if Tito stated all their materials became 1997 the property of Mark and Sarah, then it can be handed down like that. That's similar to how corporate mergers happen and transfer IPs to each other. Yes, I know what you're saying, but they don't have any instructions that they own all the materials. A judge gave them some ownership of some materials. Right, a human judge. They don't have any instructions because we've asked them for those instructions many times and they just are vague about it. Yeah. But we have evidence of what Doe's intention was. Well, they know, Mark and Sarah know a lot of our defense already. Yeah, we're not going to give them everything because we do have things that they don't know we have. Anyway, so MW1 Online says, at Kathy. I don't know what that means. Checker says, good night, y'all. And says, at Rise Above, I'll have to check out that book. You could very well be correct. Rise Above says, at Checker22, it's really interesting hearing Jim Jr.'s take on events. He was 18 when the mass murder happened. Rise Above says, okay, everyone, have a great night. Checker says, on the upside, if you all go to court, they will likely be required to prove the bounds of their ownership. Well, that's true. That's one of the things that is going to come out of this. And so then we will know without a shadow of a doubt exactly what audios we can play and share that they don't have copyrighted, because I believe they have a lot not copyrighted. MW1 Online says, good night, 2 and 1. Good night.